Welcome back to the Simple Farmhouse Life podcast. You'll have to excuse my voice. I have laryngitis. Thankfully, though, I did not have it for the interview that I'm going to be sharing with you today that I did with Andrea from Pine and Prospect Home. And thankfully, I got ahead of my podcast and I ended up not having any last week when this started or any this week. So I should be totally good by the time I have another episode. In the episode that Andrea and I already recorded, I had to run quick that day, so I didn't make an intro for it. We talked about all things home decor in springtime, thrifty finds for home decor in the springtime. She has so many great ideas. I consider her the expert or the queen of DIY thrifty decor. I've actually been to her home in Michigan. I've toured it. Actually, I just went as a friend. It sounds really fancy, like I went on a tour of her home, but I did. And I saw every room, and it's even more beautiful in person than it is on Instagram. And every single thing in her house, every piece had a story of something that she and her husband either built or found or acquired and made over. So many great, inspiring moments throughout her whole entire home and throughout this interview. Today's episode is brought to you by Toups & Co. Organic Skincare. More on them in a bit. My name is Lisa, mother of 7 and creator of the blog and YouTube channel Farmhouse on Boone. Join me as I share with you my love for creating a handmade home from scratch cooking and a little mom and entrepreneur life along the way. Well, thank you so much for jumping on with me. And I'm super excited about our getting together in June. I'm like, oh my gosh, we got to actually think about this now.
I know. I was thinking about it too. And I was hoping you guys would, when I found out that your sister was pregnant, I was like, oh, I hope they're still going to host this year. So yeah, I'm glad you guys.
Yep. And this will be where you guys will be staying, or not all of you, but like we're going to be we have it all worked out with the house and here. But yeah, I'm in my little cottage, which we have some work to do. So this is like one of the first things we can talk about. You see my my fireplace here?
I love that fireplace.
So I'm brainstorming because our guy who helped us like fix everything in here, he made it to where it's no longer drafty. So it actually, you can light a fire in it. But he made it really ugly. Like he took the stone and he put dark gray on it and it was supposed to dry light and it didn't. So now I'm like, what do we do about this? So yeah, that'll be, I want your advice.
I've actually painted grout before. Have you ever painted grout? They make paint that you can use on grout, but it would probably be very tedious. I just saw a lot of grout on that stone. Well, yeah,
and so a lot of it too is on the stone. So I'm thinking like maybe we'll have to like chisel it away off the stone. I don't even know if that's possible.
Bummer. Or could you do like a whitewash on it?
I thought about, and that's probably what we're gonna have to do. I really don't want to because I don't, but I know. And I also don't know what to do about the mantle because it's all like uneven at the top. And normally when people have stone fireplaces, they put one across the front, but that's when it goes all the way up. This just stops. And so I'm like, I have no idea. Yeah, it's a real head scratcher. I also thought about what if we got an antique mantle that, sometimes they have like a box around them.
Yeah.
And like enclose it somehow. But anyways, I'll have to get your guys' like in-person advice when you're here.
Yeah, I'd have to see it again. You'll have to send a picture.
I know. I'll send it to the group.
Every time I see that fireplace, whenever you're recording YouTube videos or whatever, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's so cool. How old do you think it is?
I'm not totally sure. We're thinking at least 100 years old. The outside, the chimney is really cool.
It's amazing.
And I think that's what it's supposed to look like really in here. But then I don't know. It never was.
Didn't turn out that way.
My favorite in here, but now it's like really, really messed up. So I don't know. You'll have to help me brainstorm it.
That's so frustrating.
I know. So we can jump into what is more applicable to other people's homes as well, not just mine. Last time I had Sarah on, I just like, okay, well, what about this? What about this? It was just my little private design consultation. So that's what it turned into.
Yeah.
But yeah, so how are you transitioning from winter to spring, which I'm sure you're probably like fully transitioned over, but with nothing really bloomed yet?
Yeah, it's really tricky right now because we still have snow on the ground. So it doesn't feel right to
okay.
I mean, it's finally starting to melt, but there's definitely a lot of snow out there still. So it feels weird like pulling out spring florals and when it's still so cold outside. But that's probably the first thing that I do is just put away like I'll keep out some cedar and pine type stuff during the winter, and then in the spring, I'll bring out the florals and the stems, and that immediately just makes everything feel like spring, bringing all those. I mean, and unfortunately, as much as I love like real flowers and like my lilacs and my hydrangeas, everything's still dead outside. So if you have to use faux for a little while, I mean, I think it works. They make some really great faux flowers nowadays.
Yeah. So I was actually looking online a couple days ago because I want some faux flower arrangements around the house.
Yeah.
Do you have any good sources that actually look realistic?
What's funny? I actually just did a blog post on this like 2 weeks ago.
Perfect.
I know. I did a blog post and a YouTube video. And I think it was like how to make faux flowers look more real. And I talked about just some tips and tricks so they don't look so tacky, like what to avoid when you're at the store shopping for faux flowers and how to bend the stems and add greenery to make them look, more lifelike. So there's a lot of tips in that post, but I get them from all over. I think you can find good and bad all over, like Hobby Lobby, Joann's, even Walmart. You can find some really cheesy flowers there that look just fake and kind of too plasticky. And then they've got good quality ones there too. So I think just really all over. I think the really nice looking ones are really expensive. Like, I don't know if you've heard of A Floral. I've been seeing that around a lot lately.
I actually ordered my faux greenery for my banister at Christmas time from there. And it was like very, very lifelike. It was my favorite.
They look so real. And I clicked on a link that I saw the other day that someone was sharing. And I was like, oh, okay, well, the price
won't fit in with our Thrifty Decor conversation at all, will it?
The price reflects that. But I guess I'm sure they would last a long time, and they literally look real. So I mean, if you want to invest in
my floral or my banister greenery everybody thought it was real because it looks, even in real life, it looks real.
Yeah.
But the price point, I don't remember what they cost, but I know it was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll just buy these and have these for forever.
Yeah. So it's like $10 to $20 a stem, which might sound like, oh, that's not too bad. But usually for a really beautiful bundle,
but if you try to actually...
like you need at least 3 stems. So you're talking, 30 to,
And really you need more than that.
Yes, if you want to make a big impact.
Yeah, I don't know if it was quite so bad for the greenery. But that would be a lot if you wanted to actually create an arrangement. Now, one thing I've learned is like if you're shopping on Walmart, you can't really go on Walmart.com and look for faux florals because I've thought things looked really real and then I get them here and they're totally not. So you almost have to go in person.
I agree. Unless somebody has recommended it personally, a friend of mine saying, look how real these look. They're sharing it in stories, whatever, over on Instagram. Maybe I could trust what they're saying. But for the most part, I like to see it in person for sure. So I would say that's the first thing I do. And then I don't know, just in order to get ready for spring, I kind of like to just deep clean and declutter and kind of just strip the space of everything and start fresh, lighter, maybe not so many layers, not so many pillows, heavy blankets, lighter linens.
Do you feel like it looks bare? I always have this moment where things look really bare and I'm not sure what to do about it.
Yeah, I think it takes a couple of weeks for me to get used to it when you take everything down after the holidays. But I definitely think it looks bare. But then I get used to it and I'm like, okay, I like this, less to clean around. So
I actually, the other day I did a shelf in my kitchen and I had greenery and red plates on it and it was just very festive all, winter. And then I took away the greenery and it was just red plates. So then it looked really bad. Yeah. But then I replaced that with useful things. Like I did a jar of, barley and I just did a bunch of spices. And then now I think I like it better than I liked it in the Christmas time. But I had to definitely live with it stripped for a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite things is using for your decor, using items that you actually use, especially in your kitchen and dining room. I think you can get away with that more. Like on my kitchen counters, I used to add all this extra decor, a sign that says spring and little, you have flowers everywhere. But now it's like, I think less is more sometimes. And I really just like using items that I actually use on a daily basis. So really pretty ironstone bowls and things like that. So I think that helps a lot. And then all you really need to add is just a simple vase full of flowers, or, maybe switch out your kitchen towels to something that feels like spring, whether that's like a striped or floral pattern or something. You don't need to go crazy with all these little knickknacks, in my opinion.
Yeah, I put some greenery like all over my windowsill in my kitchen. And again, I took it out, lived with it for a couple weeks with it gone, and it felt super bare. And then I put some pictures up there. And I'm like, oh, now these are ready for florals for the summer. So it's like I'm kind of transitioning into empty vases ready for, whenever stuff actually blooms. Yeah.
Ready for flowers. Yes. And I love your cut flower garden. I want to do one so bad this year. It just looks so simple to just...
It is.
Is it really?
I don't do anything fancy. I mean, if you want to get fancy about it, then you could. But if you just do zinnias and cosmos, they'll grow wherever you throw them. They just are so easy to grow. Oh, my word.
I've got to do that this year. It just was so beautiful. Last year you went and cut them all summer long. I was like, oh my goodness, I've got to do that.
I could just scrap the vegetables entirely, to be honest with you.
Could you really? Oh my word. I haven't even started the vegetable thing yet. One day we'll get there. We're still working on our backyard, but you've been to my house. You've seen, we've done a lot of like areas with flowers, but we haven't transitioned. We haven't done anything with vegetables yet. One day we'll get there. So,
I mean, I could trade them for flowers and just do my whole garden area and flowers. That'd be fine.
It's so beautiful. It really is.
So what are some of your, I came to you because you are definitely the queen in my eyes of Thrifty Decor. And I've been to your house, and she really is, because everything in your house, you've either snagged for a bargain somewhere or you've DIY'd it so that it looks expensive and nice, but it wasn't.
That's
so
really
what are
sweet.
some of your favorite DIYs in your house? I know it's completely full of them.
I know. I was looking at the outline for today's episode and I'm thinking, what are my favorite DIYs? Because everything around me is a DIY.
Right, I know.
But probably, unfortunately, I don't have a blog post on this yet. I'm still working on it. We just built a new table this past Christmas. I kind of shared the process and stories, but we were able to salvage some wood from a barn for free. This friend of ours was burning her barn down. And so my dad and my husband went and pulled out a bunch of like 150-year-old beams. And so that became the base for my table. So that was free. And then I found this really cool reclaimed wood on Facebook Marketplace. And I think we paid like $60 for it. And so we use that as the top. So I'm still working on a blog post so I can take some photos and kind of share how we built it. But I love the way our table came out. And it was, I mean, when you look at antique tables, they cost anywhere from they start around $2,000 or $3,000 for like what I wanted to have, for the vision.
You
that
probably
I
had a specific size.
For a big, long, antique farmhouse table. You type in like antique pine. Unless you just happen to find one at a thrift store, they're very expensive at antique shops. So that's probably one of my favorite recent projects. But there's so many, so many all over my home. Oh my goodness. I'm looking at my desk in here that we built in our sunroom. We used like a desk that my parents gave me. It was free. You can find that blog post over on my blog. We turned it into this whole built-in desk unit for my office. The shelves behind me that we built, that's another favorite project. So our shed makeover in the backyard, I could just go on and on. So I should probably stop.
Well, you also have your sink. I'm trying to remember which bathroom that was in. That was a really cool one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Didn't your grandpa help you build that or something? Or maybe your dad. Your dad.
My dad helped me build it. Yep. We built that from like $5 fence posts and created a sink in the bathroom. It was inspired by a Pottery Barn sink that was $2,000 or $3,000, and we built it for like $15. So that was a cool project.
Well, how does the process work? I mean, so when you see this Pottery Barn sink and you think, I'm not going to be able to spend $2,000 or $3,000, or even if I could, I'm just not going to do it. How do you go about coming up with an idea for yourself? Because I think what comes really naturally to you maybe doesn't come naturally to everybody else. And so they might be thinking, okay, I'm glad you thought of that, but how did you even go about thinking of that?
I don't know, Lisa. I think that Frugality, like I think it's just ingrained in some people. I don't know if it's the way you were raised or I don't know what, because people ask me that all the time. And it's just, if I see something, my first thought is, can I make that for less? I don't know. That's the first thing, but can I do it for less? Like, how can I create that look, but not spend all that money? So it's just, It's just part of me, I guess. It's just, I've always been that way. And I don't know if I had millions of dollars, if I would ever change. Maybe. I probably would. Because it gets old after a while. So, I mean, sometimes it's like, oh man, when you're in the middle of these big projects, there are definitely moments where you think, man, I wish we could just afford not to have to
buy it.
Yeah.
I know, but it's so satisfying because
it is.
When you walk around your home, it looks like a home that would be in a magazine. It's actually like you've been approached by magazines.
Yeah, that's really sweet.
And nothing in it was something that you just went and purchased for thousands of dollars. Do you have anything in your home that you purchased for thousands of dollars?
Our couch. So that's what I'll, you were going to ask me that. Like, what do you decide to invest in?
What do you splurge on? Yeah. I mean, you really can't make a couch. You can slipcover a couch, which, And
if you're lucky, you might find a great one at a thrift store. But I think you'd have to shop in like some high-end neighborhoods where, people are they use a couch for a couple of months or a year and they're like, I'm ready to move on. But that's unlikely. Most of the time, couches I see in thrift stores are pretty run down. So you could slipcover them for sure. But I would say invest in like your main furniture pieces in your home. That's where, because you said, where do you splurge? You were going to ask me that.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be considered a splurge. Your couch, your living room furniture. Light fixtures is another one. Sometimes you just can't find what you're looking for at a thrift store. Like our lantern light fixture in our dining room. That was something that I just decided I'm going to just save up and buy this and stop looking at thrift stores because I doubt I'm going to find what I have in my head at a thrift store. So that's another thing. Lighting is one thing that you probably you could buy new. Unless you really love vintage fixtures, you could definitely get lucky.
Well, actually, if you love vintage fixtures, just from experience, you're going to pay even more.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. I know you have some in your home.
That's not going to help you. I mean, it will. I guess if you love vintage fixtures, that's one thing. I like antique.
Yes.
So the fixtures I found for my home some of them have been a bargain. Some of them have definitely been a splurge where just like, but like you said, it's going to be there forever.
Yeah.
It's out of reach of the kids. So it's not like it's something that can really get damaged. Yeah. Let's just knock on wood here.
Yeah. I think you've had a damaged light fixture before. Didn't you light above your island?
Have, actually, you're right. Yep, I did. Yeah.
I remember that.
And,
oh my goodness.
The other day, I had these glass photos and I made an arrangement in my boys' room. This is like, I've had it up for like 2 months. And the other day I walked in and I'm like, is that? Yes, it is. What happened?
Oh my word.
So they were throwing their, Nerf guns and all of that. Yep. So yeah, I get it.
I get it. I think but that's one good thing about Thrifty Decor, because if something does break, in most cases, unless it was like a one-of-a-kind find that I'm like, darn, I'm never going to find something like that again. For the most part, I'm like, it's okay, guys. I can probably find another one, So it is kind of a good thing when your kids are little.
Yeah, especially on a house of kids.
All right, today's episode is brought to you by tubesandco.com Organic Skincare. I have been absolutely loving their charcoal skin bar. It is so great at making my skin feel really clean after a long day of cooking. And then now there's time spent out in the garden. I'll have makeup on and sweat. And at the end of the day, using that charcoal bar really just cleanses my skin. And then I'm also absolutely loving their sea buckthorn cleansing oil. I alternate between those. Sometimes I'll do one at night, one in the morning. Sometimes I just miss the morning altogether and I'll do one night, one the next, to really impart that cleansing and moisturizing all at the same time. It really gets in between the pores and my face just feels so clean after using it and moisturized. Now, our skin is the largest organ on our body, and what we put on it actually does absorb in and affect our health. I used to think, well, what does it matter if I put, whatever goes on my skin? It's not like I'm eating it, but it actually does go into your body. And so you want to be really mindful about the products that you choose. So Tubes & Co., they use wonderful ingredients. So they're non-GMO, not synthetic, no fillers. They get tallow from grass-fed cows. They use olive oil, very natural, clean, organic ingredients, and they're really beautiful skincare. So I'm loving these products more, just as much, if not quite a bit more, than things that did have all of those fillers and scents and fragrances and things that, you know, you might be used to having. These are so much more pure and beautiful, and they really do a fabulous job. They're also made right here in the USA by a small husband and wife team, small company. I love supporting something like that. Tubes & Co. is offering you 10% off your purchase. It's just a one-time use coupon, but it does not have to be your first purchase, with my code FARMHOUSE. So you can go to tubesandco.com, TOUPS and co.com, and use the code FARMHOUSE.
So whenever you go out to look for things, what are some of your favorite sources? Are you mostly Facebook Marketplace? We actually did a YouTube video about this, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yep. I love Facebook Marketplace. I just scored 6 dining room chairs for my table on Facebook Marketplace.
Oh, that's right. I saw that on your stories. Yeah.
I'm so excited. I was waiting and being patient. I was so close to just shopping for new ones because I just wasn't finding what I was looking for.
But they wouldn't even have been as cool.
I know. Too. They have so much character. They're so old. And they're so pretty. I'm gonna mess with them a little bit because I want them to be darker. But for the most part, I got all 6 of them for $100, which at first my frugal self was like, oh, I should offer less. But my sister was like, Andrea, that's like $15 a chair. Like, that's a good price. You need it. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, she's probably right. So
you wouldn't want to miss out on it over.
I know.
Like $20.
And he'd already lowered the price too. And they were originally $200. So he marked them down to $100. And yeah, we just brought them home the other day. I'm always finding stuff on Facebook Marketplace all the time. I love Facebook Marketplace, but I love to thrift in person too. I love kind of browsing the aisles and digging and seeing what I can find. So
yeah, well, my thing that I've learned as my home has come together, and I feel like it's like starting to come together more and more, is that you're not really able to make a design board when you design like this.
Yeah,
I know. So like I think there's this tendency with people who want to be like design their home. They want to make this board where you put in these chairs with this light fixture. I remember doing that with a few rooms in my last house, and it never has the character, and you have to buy everything brand new if you want to do that. So how does stuff come together for you whenever you really can't have a perfect picture of what it's going to look like beforehand? Like you might have sort of pictured which chairs, but then now you have these chairs. So how do you like bring everything together? Like, what's that process like?
Well, I guess like with my dining table, I thought that I wanted Windsor style chairs, and I was just lucky enough I have a little booth, a little antique. You were here. I always forget that. There's a shop here with a little booth that my mom and I share. And I happened to have a Windsor chair up there. So I ran up there and grabbed it and put it up next to my table. And I was like, yep, that's exactly what I want. So I was really lucky to be able to do that. I know in a lot of cases, that's not the case. You can't just go to your local antique store and borrow furniture and play with it.
Right.
So I guess that's the benefit of small town living. The owner there is really sweet, and she lets me play with stuff all the time. I think that just moving things around your house and playing with what you already have helps a lot too, to kind of know what to look for, like constantly playing, like if you put some artwork on the wall, for example, in my dining room, I hung some artwork that I had, and I'm like, okay, I really love artwork there. This particular piece is too small, and I'm not in love with the colors, but I think I want to look for some art for that wall. You know what I mean? So
yes, I totally know what you mean.
Yeah, you're playing around with it to get an idea of what you're looking for. And then when you see the right thing, you're like, oh, that's it. I'm going to grab that. So I don't know.
Yeah, just the other day, I have 2 slip-covered wingback chairs that I did years and years ago. I had one sitting in the corner of my bedroom, sort of as like a spot to sit to nurse Theo, which I've literally never done that. I have the bed here and I don't sit in that chair. And then I had one up in my other son's room, and I started moving the living room furniture around, and I thought I wanted 2 chairs in a certain spot that I really wasn't sure if I did or not. So I went and I grabbed chairs from both of those places, and now they're going to stay there because they look perfect. Yeah. So yeah, just what you said, I feel like I'm always trying to do this design board thing in my head. I'm like, okay, would 2 chairs look good there? And I'm like, no, go get the 2 chairs, even if they're not the right 2 chairs, put them there and then move things around.
Yep. I do it all the time. And that's not even with larger furniture pieces, even small things. Like, I think I want something white in this corner, go grab a white picture and you're like, all right, well, if that one doesn't work, then now you know what to look for. I think just constantly people, I think, are nervous almost to play with their home or nail things to the wall or move furniture around. I mean, I am by no means like, have I arrived as a designer or anything? But that's how I got from where I used to be to where I am today, is just by constantly moving things and playing with things. So I think that helps a lot.
Just yesterday, I had a pile of art. It was stacked up on a hutch in the living room. And it was just stacked there because I'd been collecting it. I found pieces I liked. And yesterday I was like, Luke, we're going to put these up. I don't really know where they're going to go because in my head, I was like, well, I'm going to wait until I know where I want that to go. And they've been sitting there for probably a year, literally. Yep. And so we just started putting them up. I'm like, okay, let's just throw 2 up here, throw them here. And if we live with it for a while and I think that's not the right spot for that, we can just move them. We'll store them on the wall instead of in a pile on the hutch.
Yep. And if it doesn't work out, you just grab a little bit of spackling.
Right. Or not. Just get another bigger piece of art and cover it up.
Yeah. Or just put something else there. Yeah. So it's not the end of the world if it doesn't work out. You've got to just nail it to the wall and try it to know, I think that's.
Yeah. I think I want to just do the whole thing in my head and like figure it out and make the decisions before like going upstairs and grabbing the wingback chair and all of that. But I'm like,
yeah,
you're right. There really is something to just playing with the house, moving things around. I always forget too about shopping the house. So like the other day, we moved our whole house around. So we have like Luke and I now sleep downstairs and we have the living room used to be the dining room. So there's a hutch in there and it had china. And I'm like,
I can't wait to see this in person.
Yeah, I know. It's only like 3 months
away.
Like,
it's so disjointed in my mind. And I'm like,
I know. The houses that I've been to that I first learned about on Instagram and blogging, like when you see them in real life, they're never the same layout. Like even your house, I knew all the rooms, but I never could piece it together right. But anyways, I thought we need to get rid of the hutch because this is no longer a dining room. It's a living room. And so I was like, okay, the hutch has to go. And then I took the pictures out and I put them on top of it, which it needed decor on top. Not really sure why I didn't think of that. Put the plates in other places. And then I took books from another place and put it. And I'm like, it's a bookshelf. Of course. It's perfect. Like it's the perfect piece. I would run out and buy this and I was going to get rid of it. So just like reimagining what you already own is the ultimate in thrifty decor. Now, some people might be saying, okay, but I actually have never even started collecting anything. What are some of the things that now that you're probably 10-ish years into home ownership and living in your space and figuring out, what you want, what are some things that you're always looking for when you go to thrift shops and Facebook Marketplace?
Well, I immediately check the furniture section just because, and I used to buy stuff all the time just if it was cheap, and I would think, oh, I could paint this or I could strip this. And I tend to stay, unless I love it, I tend to stay away from project pieces now. Like I want to, maybe it's the stage of life I'm in.
Oh yeah.
Baby.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's like I have to really be in love with it and, imagine it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So for the most part, I try to avoid these pieces that need a ton of work. So I always check the furniture and then I like to file through the artwork. I've really been into vintage art, like you said lately. I just think it's so pretty.
What are you looking for? Are you mostly sticking to oil paintings? Are you doing any prints? Or are you looking for a certain type of frame?
Yeah, I've really been drawn to landscape paintings. And honestly, the 2 that I have are prints. I got one at an estate sale and I got the other one at a thrift shop. And I think they're both prints. I don't think they're originals or anything. They were too cheap to be originals, but I do see originals.
Find them every once in a while.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
So, anyways, both of mine have like a vintage wooden frame, just like a really pretty, and it's like a detailed frame, just something you don't find nowadays, But I also think the brass frames are really pretty. I've seen landscape paintings with these beautiful brass frames that I love. So I like looking for artwork. I always file through, at Goodwill, places like Goodwill, a lot of times Target will donate, things to Goodwill or Walmart or Kohl's. And so sometimes you can find like brand new curtains or brand new throws, or pillow covers in that section. So I'll always check out the linens. I like to check out the kitchen items. I've really been into replacing the things, like everything that I use, I want it to be like beautiful and like bring joy. You know what I mean? So I've been transitioning in my kitchen to like everything I use, whether it's spatulas or, mixing bowls. Anything. I want it to be something that if I just left a mess in the kitchen, it would still be beautiful because I would love everything that I...
Oh my gosh, I said this just the other day. I actually was at yes, I was... It was so funny. My sister and I, we were at Vintage Market Days, and I was planning for a YouTube video on like this type of topic, like shopping for antique finds and all of this. And I go, Laura, the reason I really like these quilts, and I'm like, wait, hold on, let me pull my notes up. And I pulled up the voice thing and I said, the reason I really like these quilts is even if it's a mess in my boys' room, it's still pretty. Yeah. Like if they throw the quilts on the floor and none of the beds are made, but there's really like this quilt on the floor is still good.
Yes,
so I
totally
know what you're saying.
I don't know. It's just that idea. I can't think. She was all the rage a couple of years ago and everybody was organizing.
Marie Kondo, homes. Yeah.
Yes. Like, does it bring you joy or whatever? It sounds cheesy, but it's really true. Like, I have been doing that a lot, just getting rid of things that, and replacing them with things that have more beauty and bring me joy. And I feel like, so now I like to check out the kitchen section and I dig through the little tools there and find these pretty spatulas and mixing bowls. And, I love bringing that type of thing home with me. I just got the coolest. I think this video will go live next week or the week after, but I went thrifting and found some really cool, like vintage pizza cutters, and I find wooden spoons all the time, stuff like that. So
yeah.
I like looking for things like that.
Yeah, why not? Why not have those items? Because they're out. You're going to be using them. And whenever I have this crock bowl sitting on the counter that I've just made something in dirty versus like a stainless, which I still have like my stainless bowls, but I'd much rather see that crock bowl sitting there.
Yeah,
I always reach for it. If it's not being used, it's what I'm using because same thing. When the kitchen's a mess.
I do the same thing now. And I'm so happy you've finally convinced me to switch over to cast iron. So
good.
Now I don't even mind those dishes laying out because even my cast iron is beautiful.
Right.
So.
Yep. Exactly.
They just sit right out on the stovetop, even when they're dirty. I mean, they still look beautiful.
I know. Yeah. Just stack them up and use them next time. So what are some of your tips for actually keeping it curated? Because when I first started this, and maybe this is just part of it, like maybe this is going to happen regardless, but I brought home a lot of stuff that I thought was cool. And then after I got thrifting more and antiquing more, I developed an eye for it. So what are some tips for that so that people don't have to like bring home a bunch of junk?
I don't know. I guess I kind of ask myself if it's timeless. I don't know. I personally, if you were to go look at my home, I like to keep things pretty minimal. I don't have a ton of clutter. So I guess I ask myself, like, first of all, do I absolutely love it? Don't just bring it home because it's cool. You're going to find cool stuff all the time. And before you know it, you're just going to have way too much stuff in your house.
Yeah, there's an abundance of cool stuff.
Yeah, there always will be. And I think that's one cool thing about having a little booth, because sometimes you don't have to leave it there. You're like, oh, I could bring this and go sell it up at my booth. But yeah, I ask myself if I really love it, first of all, and then just asking myself, okay, is this trendy or is this timeless? Like, is this something that in a year it's going to be, out of style? Is this just like all the rate? Like, back when I first started decorating, and birds and turquoise and chevron stripes were like super popular. Yeah. Everybody had them in their homes. Like, that's what I did, And then after a while, I'm like, okay, this isn't truly what I love. I'm just doing it because I see it on Pinterest. So stick to what you love and ask yourself if it's, something that'll stand the test of time, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I have a hard time, and I'm developing it more and more just as I see things and I, it clicks like, oh, I like this a lot. But
yeah,
I sometimes have a hard time even knowing, like, do I love this? I really don't know. Like it's pretty. And in the context of this room, it might be even better.
Yeah.
But I'm totally not sure when it's removed from it sometimes.
I know.
If it's
for sure. And there have been pieces that I'm like, I'm going to pass it up. And then later I regret it. Later I think, darn, I should have gotten that. Like, why didn't I just pay the $3 and buy that vase, So, so yeah, I definitely do that too. I'm not perfect when it comes to knowing like what's going to be perfect for my home. Sometimes I buy things and I made a mistake. I bring it home and I think, oh, I don't like this. But I guess that's the good thing about thrifting, instead of spending $20 or $30 or $40 on a vase, you just spent $3. So it's not the end of the world if you have to donate it back to the thrift store if you find you haven't used it in a couple of years,
Yeah. As I'm venturing into this world of like adding art, which, everybody's been adding art forever, but I haven't. And so this is new for me.
Same.
And I'm sometimes like, it's oil painting. It's in a cool frame, but do I really love it? Maybe the tip for that is just put up something like you were saying before as almost like a placeholder, get a print, put it up there. And if it's like a really nice, like, landscape print, and then maybe someday if you're sure you like that landscape print there, maybe you could keep your eye out for the oil painting or a cooler frame. But like,
for sure,
I don't know, venturing into it without spending a whole lot of money, but yet still being able to, because there's a lot of things that if I wouldn't have made the mistake, I wouldn't have it looking in my home how it looks, because I really wasn't sure whenever I started dabbling in it,
For sure. It all goes back. You just got to keep playing with it and trying different things. So yeah, it can be tricky sometimes. I'm still learning too all the time. I mean, I'm constantly changing things. So I'm right there with you.
Well, and for people that it doesn't come naturally to, I mean, I guess that's why there are bloggers like you. Go to your Instagram, study the details, and then, maybe if you just really like Andrea's house, just look for things like she has,
Oh, you're so sweet. Yeah. No, for sure. I do the same thing. I love like design books. I have a bunch of them and I enjoy those more than like scrolling on my phone. Just looking at a big book and studying a room or a space, I think that helps me a lot. And just looking at all the details, what do they have hanging? Why do you love that? Like, why are you drawn to that? Okay, well, I don't know. Maybe it's because of the colors, or maybe it's because of, the accents or whatever. Oh, it's because the rug is just so beautiful. So I think that's a great idea. Just studying people that you really love and then looking for items that they have and try to implement them into your home and play with them. So
yeah. And with the design books, I find that I can look at the same design book 100 times because one day I'm thinking about light fixtures and their placement.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, where are all the sconces in this picture? And then the next I'm thinking about rugs. What rug was in that space that I like so much? I'm always noticing different details based on like the current thing that I'm trying to figure out in my own home.
I do the same thing. I always find something new.
What are some of your favorites? Design books?
I just got one for Christmas. My husband got it for me. I think it's Country Home, Nora Murphy, I think.
Oh, yep. I have that one. I love that one.
Yeah, I got that one.
Yeah.
For Christmas. I had like hinted to my husband that I wanted it and he got it for me. So that was sweet.
Yeah. That's a good one.
I love that one. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. I have Homebody by Joanna Gaines, which I don't love all the homes in that book, but there are certain homes that I go back to in that book.
But you don't even necessarily have to like the style as much as you can glean like certain placement of things and certain accents that you do like.
Yes. And then there's another one called Patina Farm. Have you heard of that one?
No, it sounds like something I
beautiful. Oh, okay. You would love it. You would love it. She's got chickens and goats and, wandering all over the property and an herb garden. And it's beautiful. I love her book too.
Yeah.
So.
I'm going to have to definitely look that up. For everyone listening, there will be a corresponding blog post and show notes. So if you go to simplefarmhouselifepodcast.com, there will be a whole post on this. And so you can get all the links and also the links to all of your blog posts that you mentioned throughout the episode.
Thank
and then
you.
Obviously if you're listening on like Apple Podcasts, it'll also be down in the description box or the show notes or whatever. So many great resources. Well, thank you so much for joining me and chatting Thrifty Decor.
It was a lot of fun.
I feel like you have so many good ideas and plenty more to come. So if people want to follow along on Instagram and YouTube, and your blog. A lot of it you'll share in your stories first, and then you'll ultimately make a YouTube video on the process and behind the scenes on whatever comes up.
Although, yes, I guess I've kind of switched now. That's how it used to be. But now I feel like I do the YouTube video, and then I try to send people in stories over to watch the YouTube video and read the blog post.
Yep. Yeah, me too. Yeah, it definitely makes more sense. Nobody's giving you anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, you taught me that.
I know. I think people put so much effort into Instagram stories, and then, I don't know. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. So I like to use it as a little commercial for, hey, if you want to see this, head over to my blog.
The full process. Yeah. And I also just can't, I can never remember to do everything vertically and horizontally. So it's almost like you have to pick. Am I documenting this for YouTube or am I documenting it for
kudos to those
Instagram
people that can do both. That's tough for me. I think I'm more consistent right now on my blog. In this season of my life, my blog and my YouTube channel, I think I'm more consistent with as far as content goes. But I try to get on stories.
Yep. So Pine and Prospect Home.
Yep.
Over on YouTube, over on pineandprospecthome.com, and on Instagram.
Thanks, Lisa. It was so much fun chatting with you.
Well, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Simple Farmhouse Life podcast. Make sure to head to this episode's sponsor, tubesandco.com. Use the code farmhouse to get 10% off your natural organic skincare. They have everything from moisturizers to cleansing to makeup. So many beautiful products over there to check out. Also go on over to Andrea's Instagram and YouTube and blog and follow along with all of the things that she is doing, because she talked about a lot of really good ideas in this episode. But I know with her creativity, her constant eye for her home and improving things and making her home more cozy for her family, she'll be doing a whole lot more. So you're going to want to be sure to continue to follow along with her to see all that she comes up with. As always, thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next episode of the Simple Farmhouse Life podcast.